Hey everyone, and welcome back to NDC, where we make learning Swift fun and easy. Today's video, we're diving into the world of Swift programming. We'll cover the basics of variables, constants, data types, and we'll even write our very first Swift program together using Swift Playgrounds. Let's get started. You can follow along this tutorial either in Swift Playgrounds on your iPad or by opening up a new playground through Xcode on your Mac. Let's quickly go through on how we can do that. If you do want to learn more about playgrounds themselves and the very basics, I have a video for that as well. So if you want to check that out, I'll link to it, or maybe have an annotation on the screen here. Otherwise, once you've opened up Xcode, you can go to the very top left of your screen. You should have like the little Apple symbol, Xcode, File, then navigate to New. And from there, you'll want to select Playground. Once you've done that, you should have a new screen that pops up. In our cases today, we're just going to be using a blank template, but there is also the option for game, map, and single view, but we'll just be going through a blank one today. Once you've selected blank, go ahead and press Next. And you can now choose where you want to create and save your playground, as well as give it a name. I usually just put everything on my desktop and put it in the appropriate folder. So in this case, I have a playgrounds folder, and I'm going to name it data types. Once I have the location and the name, I'm going to press the create button. From here, we have a nice new blank playground. I'm going to adjust my screen a little bit here and open up my console. Cool, let's go ahead and get started. Now that we have our playground open, let's go ahead and delete everything in our template, and we'll get started by learning about variables and constants. So in Swift, we use the var, or var, to declare a variable. This is something that can change during our program. For example, I'll declare a variable of my name, and we'll set that to be Noah. Of course, feel free to use your own name. And now if I want to change my name later, I can, but with constants, which we declare using let, the value stays the same. So for example, my birth year is something that's always the same. So let's go ahead and say let birth year equals, and let's set this to 1995. Awesome. A quick example of how constants and variables work. Let's say you and I are going on a road trip. The start location and the end location would be the same. So for example, the start location would be probably my house, and the end location, let's say Canada's Wonderland, that would always be the same. However, the variables would be the speed at which we're traveling at, or our location within the world. That would be something that's constantly changing or updating. That's a really quick way to remember how they work. Now, if we want to change a variable, we can. So let's go ahead and type my name equals, and let's update that to be Fred. And we can go ahead and print my name. And we can see on the right side of the screen here in our live view, it does say Noah, 1995, Fred. We can actually add a print statement a little bit earlier. My name, this might be a little bit easier. We say Noah and Fred. The way that variables work is that they update sequentially. So we start at the very top. For all intents and purposes, it's Noah. We print it, it says Noah. We change the name to be Fred. It prints it to now be Fred. Again, nice thing about playgrounds is we can see that progress on the right side, or we can use print statements to track our progress. Now, what if we wanted to change our constant? So let's say our birth year equals 1997, and you'll notice that we get an error, and it's basically saying, hey, this is a constant, you can't change it. In my version of Xcode, it actually has a fix button where it would actually take that let and change it to be a variable, just in case that's something we forgot, or we want to change what it is now. But remember, variables we change, constants we don't. So we have a few common data types in Swift, and Swift is a type-safe, meaning each variable and constant has a specific data type. So we have things like strings for text, ints for whole numbers, doubles and floats for decimal numbers, bool for true and false values. So when we want to go ahead and declare a new variable or constant, let's say we're doing some variables, we can write out what type it is, in this case variable, the name, so maybe we have a message, and you can declare what data type this might be. So maybe our message is a string, equals, and then we can include the string within those quotation marks. So if we type hello Swift, exclamation point, as a note, anything can really go in a string, anything that falls under Unicode, so any accents, any special characters, even emojis. So maybe what we'll do is we'll add a little bird for our Swift, and you'll see we are able to add them. Another thing for naming your variable, you can actually even do so with emojis. I don't see a lot of people actually doing this, but I like to mention it because I think it's cool. So even if instead of message, we chose an emoji, and maybe we're going to use the fire emoji here, you can actually do so. I'm going to revert it back to message. I don't really use the emojis, but I thought it's kind of fun to mention. When we want to display numbers, we can use integers, variable age, we can say it's an int, and then we can provide it with a number. With integers, they do have to be whole numbers, so nothing with a decimal here. However, if you do want to include a decimal, that's where we can talk about doubles. So maybe we have a variable of temp, and we can say that it is a double, and maybe the temperature is 98.6. And we also have Booleans, so that's the bool. It's a really fun word to say, Boolean, bool. I don't know, I've always found that to be fun. Let's create a variable here, is learning Swift. Let's set that to be a bool and have it equals true. Now, you may be asking yourself, when we created the variable my name and birth year at the start here, we didn't declare what they were. We kind of just said, okay, this is a variable, here's its name, this is what it holds. It is usually very, very smart at figuring out what we're trying to create. However, if you either don't have what that string might be yet, you can declare what data type it will be. The way you do that is through these examples, variable or constant, the name of it, then you can declare after a colon what type it is, so variable message string equals hello Swift. We don't need to type this. Again, if we just say message equals hello Swift, because we have those quotation marks, it says, okay, the message is a string. It's smart at figuring out what we're trying to do. However, it's really important, especially with numbers, that you declare something either as an integer or a double. So for example, if we have something that's an integer, we don't want it to have any decimal value points whatsoever. If I try to change this 26 to 26.5, you'll notice that we get an error. If you do have something declared as a double and you don't have a decimal value, it will always add it. So if we go ahead and print our temp, you'll see in the console, it'll say 98.0. It always has a decimal value there. So just a couple things to note. Okay, cool. Now let's make our first mini program. What we're going to do is we're going to create two variables. We'll say variable user age. Let's set this to be 18 for now, and variable user name equals, we'll put Bob for now. Of course, you can do anything you would like. Let's also learn a little bit about string interpolation. So what we can do is we can print, we'll say hello, comma, and what we can do is when we want to add a value to a string is use the / brackets and then the variable or constant in there. So in this case, we would put username. Let's exit those brackets while still staying within those quotation marks. We'll add a comma and a space. Or maybe, let's do an exclamation point. Maybe we're really excited to see them. We'll add a space, UR, and we'll do the interpolation for the user age now. So / brackets user age years old period. It's going to run through that. It'll say, hello Bob, you are 18 years old. Again, these are variables, so if we change it, instead of Bob, we have, I don't know, Robert. Hello Robert, you are 22 years old. Awesome. Now, because we do have numbers in Swift, we can of course do mathematical equations. We can even use these numbers for things like score or your lives in a game. We can also do math with these numbers. So let's go ahead and create a couple variables. We'll call this first variable x. Let's have it equals 10, and we'll create another variable. We'll call this one y, and maybe we'll have this one be 5. So let's go ahead and see what mathematical equations we can do in Swift. There are more than these, there's even remainders, but these are kind of the most basic ones. And in case you're not familiar with the keyboard shortcuts for any of these kind of equations here. So the first one we can do is addition. So let's go ahead and print x plus y. Then we'll do some subtraction. So let's go ahead and print x minus y. Let's see how that looks. So it'll take the value of x, it'll take the value of y, add them. On the second example with subtraction, it will minus them. Let's go ahead and print x times y. The way that we do multiplication in Swift is by using the asterisk or Shift 8 on your keyboard. Print, let's do x backslash, so the one right next to the Shift key, it's also the question mark. Y, so that is division. We can also, do any other kind of mathematical equation, but those are the most basic ones. Now keep in mind with Swift, because we are currently using integers, again, we haven't declared them as integers, but because we have made these whole numbers, it assumes so. When you do have a decimal value, it will round up. If we do want to take a integer and a double, Swift won't let us interact with those two things together. There is a way around that we'll talk about in a later lesson. So let's say we have 10.5. This will now be treated as a double, and it'll say, hey, the binary operator cannot be treated as such because you're trying to take a double and an int and do math with them. It needs to be either a double or an int. So if we go ahead and either make the y a double by putting 0.0, it'll work, or just by removing both decimal values, we'll see that it still works. Please experiment with different data types, different variables, constants in these playgrounds. If you are interested in learning more Swift concepts, please stay tuned. In our next tutorial, we will be covering control flow, where we'll be talking about if and else statements. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, dream big and code bigger. Take care, folks.